Welcome to another episode of the Juan of Words podcast. I'm Juan Alanis.
My name is Angelicas Podcast.
And this episode is brought to you by the Houston Health Department here in Houston, who's working to create awareness about COVID-19 testing and also everything that we can do in our community to be safe, which includes wearing masks, also social distancing, washing our hands, and getting tested.
Correct.
Yeah, so
should be part of your routine.
Yeah, definitely part of your routine, especially as we're going into the winter months.
Yeah,
and how the numbers are expected to go up even higher. Good news is the vaccines are coming, but in the meantime, we still.
Well, I heard the general population is probably not going to get a vaccine till the summer.
Yeah, I think it's going to be.
So it's going to be a while. Like if you're not a frontline essential worker, like a doctor or a nurse, or works with like older people, or if you're not of age.
Mm-hmm. You're not like a high risk.
Correct.
You're not high risk or anything like that. But even at that, I think part of the recommendation is that even when you do get the immunization, it's still recommended that you practice by wearing a mask.
People believe that even in 2021, the recommendation is going to be that you probably wear your mask throughout the year.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. I think I'm kind of used to wearing.
I like wearing my mask now.
I'm used to it. I'm like, I just, I don't know if I like it, but I'm used to it.
For me, I feel like it's an extra defense. Like I get to hide away.
Yeah.
A little bit. I like it. I like it. It's very comfortable for me.
Yeah, and we do double masks. So most of the time when we go like out in public, and I don't know, that adds like an extra layer of protection, like.
So we think.
Or security, like
at least we feel like it does.
It's like a blanket, like a security blanket. And you're like, oh, okay, I put two on.
Yeah, and I think at some point, like if the numbers start to get really up there, like I bought a couple of face shields, like the ones with the glasses. I think I'm gonna start wearing those, like if I have to be out. But I'm getting very I'm starting to shelter back in. Like I'm feeling like it's way too risky to leave the house at all for anything.
Yeah, and I've seen those the ones that you wear, and they're getting pretty they look like pretty easy to wear now.
Yeah.
Like some that they have like glasses that you can just put them on, and it doesn't look as like
intrusive
in your face or anything like that.
Or it's like strapped onto your head.
Yeah. But anyways, the Houston Health Department, definitely look them up if you're in the area and you're curious about where to go get tested. They always have testing sites every week, and they're free. So they don't require any form of identification. They're not going to require U.S. citizenship or anything like that. So definitely check them out and go get tested.
Yeah.
And also, this episode is brought to you by Comcast here in Houston, who we've talked about a few times now. And Comcast, I think we introduced them actually in the last episode.
We did.
As our new sponsor. So we're excited to have them. And we actually use their internet service, the X5 Pods, which if you're not familiar, they're the little, they're like little blocks, really, literally, that you plug into your wall, and they boost your internet. Is the easiest way that I can explain it, is that they boost the internet in the area house that you put them in. So like we're in our office.
You explain that they're plugins.
Yeah, they're plugins. So they're like we're in the office. So if we plug one in here, it would
boost Wi-Fi in the room.
Yeah, it would concentrate and boost the Wi-Fi connection in the room, because our modem is all the way in the back room. So all the way in the back room.
Like they know where it's at. No, we have our modem is actually far to the back of the house, and so but everybody uses internet, like access to the front of the house, and so the problem is that Wi-Fi either is low or we're all on it at the same time, and we need like Wi-Fi boost. So
I was laughing because I was like, I made it sound like it's on that wing of the house.
All the way over there. No,
our house is really not that big, but no, it still makes
not big at all. It's not big at all.
It still makes a difference, and I have to say, ever since we started using the X5 Pods, it has improved our internet connectivity. It's made it a lot easier right now, especially during the pandemic. That we're working from home, and then the kids going to school from home, and so it makes it a lot easier for all of us to be connected and be able to share the internet and not have like dropouts and stuff like that.
Yeah, drop-offs. Yeah.
And then they also do offer it in Spanish. So look it up. We do recommend it. And X5 Pods, if you're curious about them, look them up, and you'll find a lot of information and reviews on them.
Yeah. So thanks Comcast for coming on as a sponsor.
Right. And then you had some. Like, you started a project, right?
I did. Ooh. So I did start a project. I launched my first episode on If Not You, Then Who. Go listen to it. It's a simple introduction. I think you get to know me more here. But over there, I'm excited to start doing more. So I don't know yet how the sequence is. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't know what the sequence is going to be when I start releasing episodes, but pretty soon all that will be figured out, configured, and will be out there. Come join me there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said, if not you, then who?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to talk a little bit about like why that name or anything like that?
I think we talked about it here last time. We talked about it a little bit. If we have a clip from our other conversation that we had to cut short for reasons, maybe Juan will insert it here, and I give it a little more explanation as to what I do there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like how you cue things up and you're like, okay, insert video here.
Because I did a really good, I felt like I did a better explanation. I don't think I can rehash it out like that. But it was good. It was good. It was just unfortunate we didn't finish that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been talking about launching my own podcast for quite some time on here. I keep saying, I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to do it on my own. And I kept saying it, and I kept trying to like hold myself accountable on this podcast, because if I don't do it. I just like, oh, it just didn't happen. It didn't happen. But I wanted to keep myself accountable. So I did it. I launched my own podcast called If Not You, Then Who? I uploaded the first episode. It's a quick intro, I think 16 minutes long. I go into like who I am. You know who I am here, but I go into like more detail as to like why I started the podcast and how that kind of was going about. And then I recorded my second podcast. And so that one's just that one. It needs to get edited and uploaded also. I'm excited. I'm 2 podcasts deep. So pretty soon I'll start talking to interviewing people, which is what I love to do, and keep having conversations. I think they're like here we have truthful conversations, but I think over there it's gonna look a little bit different. You're not gonna have the arguments with me. You're gonna miss me. I'm gonna miss you. No, because you're there anyway when I record sometimes. No, yeah, like in the background. No, but I'm saying you're not gonna have the banter with the person who's gonna argue with you and you know what I'm not gonna miss? The interruptions. I know, that's what I was gonna say. You're gonna miss but you are gonna miss my interruptions at some point. You're gonna be like, wait a minute. Not even the banter's one. Nobody's interrupting me. It's these things where you go on these. Well, you know what? On the podcast, I noticed that I started to talk and then talk because I kept trying to wait for somebody to interrupt me. Well, I think we were doing it at the beginning when we were when we kept trying to talk over each other. Yeah. When we were arguing about. Well, we weren't arguing. Even now we do it. Well, we weren't arguing, but we were like having a discussion about the colleges or whatever. We were like, I'm trying to say something. Trying to say something. Yeah. What was that? That sounded like a monkey. No, but so what happens here sometimes is that you want to get your thought off of your mind, and I'm so quick to like say what I want to say, but the thing that I have, the frustration sometimes that I have here, Juan, is that you take too long to say what you want to say, and I'm like, can you just say it? But I feel like that's a mutual thing, because I feel like that's why sometimes I try to interrupt you, because I'm like, you're gonna go. Yeah, but you're better at interrupting me than I am at you. Because you go on for like a while, and I'm like, Angelica, like, shut up, just get to it. Yeah, what are we getting to? Like, can you say what you're trying to say? Yeah, but I see you like trying to hurry up and like interrupt me, and I'm like, I'm just gonna say anything and everything, so like that I can get out what the fuck I'm trying to say, because otherwise he's gonna interrupt me. But so tell us why, if not you, then who? If why not you, then who podcast? Yeah, why the name? Just real quick, because I know you talk about it in the podcast more, and your podcast more, but just real quick, so for people here, so they know when they can go and check it out there, you want to give them a little intro about what it is and why the title? Yeah, so the title came about with, twofold. I started doing some research on Latina leadership, and it was just not coming up. Like, it wasn't like, it was nowhere to be found. And we were like not invisible, but we were there, but we weren't. And I was like, okay, this is weird. And so when I did come across it, there was a lot of things that were incompatible with each other. And then when I started doing the interviews with the Latina leadership series on the Crafty Thrifter, it was the same thing that was coming up. It's like, yeah, I feel like this is where I belong. I feel like this is what I need to do. And so when I started having to have multiple conversations across the board with other people, and then there was a conversation that I had with, actually I'll mention him here. I had a conversation with a really good friend named Pepe. And he told me something really interesting. He said that he, at a conference, he had heard that usually women who, and especially like Hispanic women, after their husband dies, they usually go into bankruptcy within the first 5 years. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit. That is scary, because we are completely reliant on you. and the amount of work that you do and the amount of income that you bring into the family, right? And I was like, there's, because of the way I've lived my life, and not the way I live my life, but because of things that have happened throughout my life, I have not been able to, like, first of all, I don't drive out to my own, like on my own. I don't go to places. And so finding a job that from home was difficult, because it would be completely technical. Right. And I'm not the most technical person, like, unless I'm creating things, I'm not the most technical person. And so I remember back in the day, I used to look for jobs to, like, see if I can, like, book people's appointments, like, online, or they would call, and you know how you make appointments, right? To talk to somebody. Usually they take that phone call from home. Yeah. And so what I'm trying to say is that what happened was that after he told me that, I was like, that is scary. That is so scary. Like, I need to do something. I need to do something. Like, I can't control a lot of what's happening to me, but I can control what I'm doing right now. Right. And so that's what happened. The name kind of just fell on my lap, where it was like, okay, fuck, Angelica, if not you, then who? Who the fuck is going to do this for you? Juan can only help you so much. Juan can only do so much for you. In addition with the conversations that I was having with people, they were like, it was me or nobody. And so the name, if not you, then who?
Well, I really like the way you explained it on the show, and I think that you really said it really well, and I think you said it really well again right now. But I think it's exciting to see because this is like a project that you've been talking about for a while. And I remember when you told me, like, if not you, then who? I was like, oh, like, that's a catchy name. Like, I like that name. Because when we started this podcast, like, I just kind of went with Juan of Words, because I was like, that's what we have already established.
It was Juan of Words Podcast.
Juan of Words Podcast, and that's what it was. But like, we didn't really spend any time, like, thinking about, like, but so you actually did spend time and you thought about it and you came up with a name. And
I didn't really come up with the name. The name kind of fell on my lap.
But it makes sense. Like, it makes a lot of sense. So I don't know. I'm excited for you, and I'm proud of you. Like, I think it's really cool to see you, like, doing this project, and I know you're passionate about it.
On my own, Juan. Yeah. On my own, guys. But
it was funny, like, when you were filming the first one, because. And I understand, because, like, it's like anybody, like, when you start a new project, you're nervous, right?
Yeah. So I'm hella nervous. I'm still nervous.
When you were recording the first episode and I was sitting next to you,
you're like, talk about yourself. I was like, what do you want from me? I don't know what to say.
And you kept saying, like, but I'm just repeating myself. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. And I was like, I had to put my producer hat on, and I was like, no, talk about this and talk about that and talk about this.
and I was like, people know that already. Yeah, I was like, if people who are here already, they know already why they're here. Like, they know me already. But then I forget that this is a solo project. Like, I have to, I'm starting from scrap. And so people have to know who I am and why I maneuver the way I maneuver, who I am. And maybe they care, and now they're thinking, but why do I care? Right. So I was like, okay. Yeah.
No, so it was really good. I liked and it was nice to, like, be on the other side behind the scenes. I enjoyed that too, like, being the producer and being like, hey, do this and do that, because I knew, like, I kind of know where you're going, and I just wanted to, like, push you to be like, go there, like, don't doubt yourself, just go.
Thank you for the push and not the trip.
I'm like, just go. But okay, so tell people where they can find the podcast. Like, it's on Apple Podcasts.
It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on
Facebook. You can go to Facebook. You have a Facebook page.
It's called If Not You Then Who Podcast. You can also find me over on IG. It's either by my complete name, Angelica, ANJELICA _ Cazares, CAZARES.
And she says it so fast every time she says it, but it's ANJ with a J, because a lot of people are like, J, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
It's Angelica with a J.
So it's ANJELICA _ CAZARES. And right below it, it'll be my picture, and it says, if not you, then who?
Yeah. So go look for it, go listen, and tell us what you think about it. Tell her what you
that was on IG.
It.
That was on IG. The thing with Angelica _ Cazares on IG.
Yeah, your Instagram account. Yeah, is that one. So your handle's that the Angelica. But the show, if you just look up If Not You Then Who, then you'll find it.
But I would. It's a very it's what I wanted, where I wanted to focus and concentrate a little bit on was, I don't know, I feel like you can relate a lot more when you see somebody. Right now we can't see people in person, and you can see me through the lens, and hopefully you can see me through your screen on your phone. I wanted it to be just that. I wanted to have an intimate conversations also with the people that I'll be inviting on, and intimate conversations with you. So go on over and follow me there. I think the second episode that's going to be uploaded probably pretty soon, it's an interesting one. Yeah, I give some interesting perspective, and you get to know a lot about me.
Okay, I haven't heard that one yet. So
no, you didn't even hear me record it. I shoo everybody away, and I was like, no, this is me. I'm going to do it on my own, because I don't want to hear. Because usually when I talk about certain topics, I'll start getting looks. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'll go listen with you guys. Definitely go check out Angelicas Podcast. If not you, then who? It is on Apple Podcasts, and it is also on Instagram, where you can follow her, and like she said in her explanation, where you can find her. Yeah. And then I also wanted to share a little bit of news.
Okay.
Like, I'm excited. Like, I just signed on to, or I didn't sign on. I got I guess it's like an application process where you have to go through, but I'm going to be serving on the Houston Arts Alliance. On their board next year.
Yeah, you're going to be part of their board.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be...
You're going to be a board member.
It's going to be a board member, yeah.
Which is like it's pretty nice. That's pretty, that's exciting. You've been working on it for the last couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine recommended me.
It's an invitation invited board membership.
And so we've been going through it's a whole thing where they call you, and they interview you. There's a selection process, and then they vote on you, and blah blah blah. But I just got word a couple. Well,
not blah blah blah. There's a whole process that you go through. An extensive. I understand, but it's an extensive, application process to become part of the board. Not only do they reach out to you, you're selected, but you still have to go through the application process. Even though you're invited to the house, you're not being let into the house until they make you go through the whole two-step. Yeah.
And so it's a good it's going to be a 3-year term that I'll be serving on that board. So I'm excited, because I think serving on boards and things like that are kind of pathways to different things, and I think that
to do different stuff. Yeah,
and I think
I'm excited for you.
Sometimes it's you don't always have, I feel like the door's not always open. So I feel like that the door is open, and that I'm going to have this opportunity. I'm excited about it. And I think, they're a great organization in Houston. They
definitely are.
They do a lot of great work, and they do a lot of, commission a lot of artwork throughout the city.
Oh, yes. A lot of the artwork that's out there. Yeah. A lot of it was commissioned through the Houston Arts Alliance.
And I think Houston's art scene is definitely growing and getting bigger.
It's exciting.
So that'll be cool.
Times. Yeah.
Just wanted to share that just because I'm excited about it. So I'll actually start in January, but I wanted to just give the good news because I'm excited about it.
Well, I'm excited for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
I'm the biggest, hugest advocate of arts.
Yeah. I was like,
so it's ironic. So funny. It's so funny.
How ironic that I get to serve on the board when you're so big into the arts. I would say you're an artist yourself, but
yeah. Well, I am. I'm a visual artist, but I don't practice it as much as I would like, or as much I haven't practiced. I think I'm saving all of that, whatever. I want to put onto the world to later. I want to put it out. I want to put my heart and soul into work, and so I feel like my experience has been so much, but I'm in another depth of experiences, and I feel like all what I have not pent up, but I have encompassed. I want to put all of that out there later, not in the midst of it, not in the worlds of it yet.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that even when we travel, even when we were going through Arkansas, all I did was look for, because we weren't going indoors, I just looked for outdoor artwork. That's all I did the whole time. And it is funny that you get to do this, because to me, that's the height of things. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I always tell people that you're an artist.
I am. I'm just not a practicing artist.
They're like, what does your wife do? I'm like, well, she's an artist, and she's also creative, and she just does a bunch of stuff. And
ooh.
And I go into more detail, but I always include in that. I'm like, oh, well, she's an artist. So
yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's a time right now when there's a lot of focus being put on increasing diversity and increasing the everywhere, including in the arts. Yeah. So I think if I can help in any way, if I can contribute to that in any way, like I'm like looking forward to that and hoping that that's a possibility.
Yeah. And the way I contribute right now, because I'm not putting stuff out there, my contribution is to donate, is to visit, is to see, it's to look, it's to experience, is to share about it. And I think I come on the other forefront, like full, like I'm coming at you like with art constantly. And so I don't know when they told you, when you were like first mentioned it to me, I was like, what? I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. How do you do it?
Well, I mean, I think that what you and I have observed over the years that we've like, since we've been doing everything that we've done, is like that there's a path to leadership sometimes. And I think that, your service and your like work, like outside of your regular day-to-day job, like your work in the community also matters. So, it not that the door is closed and that you can't come in otherwise, but I think it helps to kind of it helps to be a part of that community or that network.
Yeah, for sure.
To be able to kind of, maybe you grow as a leader, or you like find different things that you want to do, or maybe create opportunities for other people. But we've figured out that, like, oh, you know what, that's something that is a pathway to something else. And so that's why for us, or like for me, it's like, oh, I a couple years ago, and it's funny because a couple years ago, I think even a year ago, I was saying, like, I want to serve on boards. Yeah. Like I was saying, I remember that. I want to find boards that I can serve on.
Something that you can do.
Yeah, something that I can.
You want to contribute back somehow in some way.
And then I was like, oh, and it's funny, like now, like these things are popping up, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But anyway. Yeah.
No, that's exciting news. So Juan's so watch out for him. So he's gonna be all the great stuff that's coming up for the next 3 years on the stuff that the Houston Arts Alliance is doing. Juan is gonna be part of that conversation.
And I'll keep you posted, guys. I mean, I guess as I learn more about what this entails and like what the tasks will be and kind of the work, whatever I'm able to share. Yeah. I'll be happy to share, in future episodes. So we'll see. Yeah.
We have a fly like riding around. I don't know what the hell it's doing. It's
like mosca. Look, there it is right there. It's a mosca or it's a mosquito?
No, it's not a mosquito. I think it's like a fruit fly. Oh. Like a full belly fruit fly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Okay, so I'm sorry. Should we go into our topic?
I'm assuming so.
Okay, so I have a topic that I was going to do on my podcast, but I thought I would hash it out here with you to see what it is that you have to say or think on the topic itself. It's several things. It's several encompasses of like thoughts that maybe I had or things that I noticed or like, it's the happenings of now. It's what's taking place. But have you seen the Selena series?
Oh yeah.
You watched it, right?
I watched it, yeah.
Yeah, you did? Okay. Mm-hmm. Have you heard the new song through Black Eyed Peas and Shakira, right?
Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah, and it's called, what is it called?
I don't know what it's called, but I remember I'm the one that was.
It's called "Girl Like Me."
Okay, yeah, and I was like, hey, like, have you heard? Like, I'm the one that showed you that song.
Yeah. Do you know the chorus to Shakira's song?
I know it's like she kind of makes a noise like a cat.
No, but there's a chorus that Black Eyed Peas that they have.
Oh, Latina. I know it's something Latinas, no?
It's Latina. And then she goes into her chorus where she says, are you looking for a girl like me? Mm. And then she goes into like a lot of there's a specific portion. Huh?
What's the noise that she makes?
No, I'm not gonna sing. Can you imagine? My God, people are gonna like click off and be like, "We're done with her."
I remember when I first heard the song before you kind of had like got onto it, and I was going around the house like making the noise, and you were like, "What are you doing?"
You were
like, you're like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
and I was like, "It's his new Shakira song."
So her chorus is, so they tell me that you're looking for a girl like me. And then she does that whole whatever, and you're looking for a girl like me. Mm-hmm. And then she goes into the Latinas. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so why am I bringing up both? I think within the last 4 years, and it's unfortunate that it ties into a lot of politics, and it's unfortunate that I feel like it ties into a lot of the happenings. It feels like we have, as of lately, it feels like the Latinos have kind of discombobulated themselves in sections, in sectors. Like, we're not like them, we are us, right? Or even within the 60% of the Latinos here in the US, which happen to be of Mexican descent, even those are kind of starting to segment a little bit, right? There are those who are like, we're Mexican American, but we're not them. We're not those Mexican Americans, or we're whatever. The word Chicano can be used also, or we're Tejanos. We're not necessarily like, we're Mexican American, but we're Tejanos. Like, we're generational Tejanos that have been here for centuries, and they tend to be more like who tend to be very much more understanding of those Latinos who support, all the unfortunates that happened, right? But I was thinking to myself, I was like, why am I hearing a lot of music, and why is there a lot of conversation around like sort of that whole like space of like Latinos, yes, right? A lot of sometimes the music would be about Puerto Ricans, Boricuas, or Dominicans or Colombians and stuff like that. But as of lately, for the last couple of months, since the Selena series came out, and since the Black Eyed Peas, there's been a lot of conversation of like the Mexican culture, or that of what we feel the Mexican culture is.
Like within like around the Shakira song?
Not the Shakira, it's just the Shakira song, but the like Selena, like, thing, and the Selena series and all of that. And I was really interested to see why that was. And so I started to do some research, that of what I do often. And I want to give you some quotes as to like what some of the Black Eyed Peas were doing. So my question was to myself, I was trying to find an answer. So my question was to myself was, why is the Selena series on Netflix, even though there is highly successful in the movie and in her albums with music videos, like there's a ton of footage out there of her performances, of her music, pictures, commercials, like there's a ton. I mean, loads of videos, home videos, like professional videos of every time she went out to Johnny Canales, every time she went out Domingo, Sábado, where was it called?
Siempre en Domingo.
Siempre en Domingo, Sábado Gigante. Like she was on everywhere. She did live, she did like television, she did commercials, pictures. Like she is, I believe, one of the musicians, even though she passed away at 24, there's so much on her, even in her life growing up. Like they did home videos of her when she was little. You know what I mean? So my question to myself was, why is Selena series on Netflix, even though there is highly success in her movie that they made on her, the one with J-Lo, and in her albums with music videos? So every time she did a song, she did an immediate music video, which got high like praise on. I remember, because they were like, this is amazing, And so, and even though there's a ton of footage of her giving interviews, making commercials, live performances, why is the Black Eyed Peas with Shakira Latina song also important? So I went on to look for some, like what they had to say, what the Black Eyed Peas had to say kind of their album with Shakira.
Your question was your question is two-part then. Why is there a Selena series, and why are the Black Eyed Peas talking about Latinas?
Kind of, sort of.
Okay.
So in the chorus in Black, maybe I should tell you part of the chorus that I took interest in. And this is after I think Will.i.am or...
Well, they mentioned Selena in the song, no?
Yeah, or Taboo, or one of them was like, Latinas, Shakira, and then it goes. And this is part of the lines in the song. It says, I like Latinas, ones who look like Selena, shake your bada like Anita, morenitas, estas más finas. I like Dominicanas, Boricuas y Colombianas. In East LA, I like the Chicanas. And so I was like, oh, like it's not just like, I like my Mexicanas. He said, I like my East LA Chicanas. And I was like, that's such a reference to him and where he's at, right? Because we here in Texas call ourselves Tejanos, right? And
Some
we
people
know,
do. Yeah.
Yeah, some people do. Great. And so I went in to look to see what his conversations or what was I don't know, like what was the feelings behind the album or the songs, and like I was interested in it. And so in an interview, he said, in an interview, I found out that he was actually from a Mexican neighborhood. In
Who's this? Will.i.am or who?
Yes, Will.i.am is he comes from a highly dense Mexican neighborhood, which obviously I understand now, the East LA Chicanas, and his success on his albums, they actually do really well not only in Central America, South America also. And so a lot of the music that they listen to them, I guess he sees the.
I would say he's more of a global artist.
He is.
Then I think he's kind of like.
But he made it a point to say to say that he gets a lot of success in not only South America but Central America.
Yeah, but I think he would be like Bono or like Shakira, that are like global stars. They're not necessarily like, they're not only in the U.S. They're not pop stars in the U.S.
And then one of the singers from the Black Eyed Peas, his name is Taboo. It's the Mexican Native American guy.
Oh, okay.
There's 3 of them.
I know him from the video, but I don't know who he is. I don't really know that much about the group.
Okay, so he said in an interview with the Billboard's Latin Music Awards, he said there also has been people that have been activists in terms of like why they do the music they do. Says there has also been people that have been activists that have inspired me personally, like Cesar Chavez with the farmers movement, people like Russell Means. For me, it's not only about the music, it's about activism. So I was like, that's you know what I'm saying? Like they know what they're doing with their music. Like they say certain things in a way that people are going to pay attention. Right, and it's a hit. I think That Girl Like Me is a hit.
Yeah, and I think a lot of artists though have been doing like the whole like Latina, Boricua, Mexican, Colombiana, like a lot of them.
But if you pay attention, to the song, he's very specific. He says, "En LA, las Chicanas."
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
like it's a reference to the Mexicans that have been here there so long, that have struggled to be there and who continue to struggle to be there. So it's very specific and very intentional. And so in the interview, he says there is opportunities to make an immediate difference. This is a separate interview. He said there is opportunities to make immediate difference at a small scale and to potentially grow to a large scale. What communities do you want to go after, and how do you want to support them? And he said, for me, I want to go back to my neighborhood and give back. And now he says that now I serve about 720 Mexicanos in my hood, and also Salvadorians, Latinos, teaching them robotics, computer science, and information. Music always does this. It's there to inform. So he says, and then it was interesting because in that interview, he also mentioned, he says, every time during moments of need, like right now during the pandemic and everything that has happened, he says, as an artist, you're asked to do your duty, which is to provide music for the escape.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Black Eyed Peas have always kind of been ones to kind of step up and kind of want to have a voice.
They did. 2 years after 9/11, they had an album that was a pretty big hit.
Well, they've always been an artist to like step up and want to have a voice in the political realm in some sort, in some form and shape. And I think that is probably something that a lot of artists are doing. Just because they know that it's a way to connect with different audiences. Not to say that I don't think it's genuine with them, but I think that it's also like it's also kind of becoming a little bit of a marketing tool. To be honest, to kind of target to have a cause that you stand behind. I also not to say that it is for them, but I think that more and more increasingly you're starting to see that it is kind of a marketing thing that sometimes you think about, like, well, what causes will this X artist or this X, like you saw it with Kim Kardashian when she took on a cause for the incarcerated people who were wrongfully incarcerated.
But my question is why is it important to them? Why is the Selena series so important? And why was that song so specific? And like he said in the chorus, like I like Latinas like Selena.
Okay, well,
LA Chicanas.
Well, let's separate them because I think they're like two separate things.
I don't see them as two separate things. Like they're important for a reason.
No, okay, but like for me, like just talking about, let me answer a little bit about the Selena thing, because I think the Selena thing is important.
Okay.
Even though there are so many videos and so many things that are out there, I think the series itself brings to light more of her story, like more of her journey with her family. So I feel like the story of her family comes out a little bit more, where the sister and the brother and the dad and the mom, they're a little bit more present. Her relationship with Chris is a lot more. They expand on it. Like I don't know how much of it is fiction, how much of it is real. But I will say the thing that I liked about the show. Now it's a little bit slow to start. So, the first couple of episodes when they're little, I gotta be honest, when I started watching the series and I was like, they were in the younger years, I was like, I was kind of hoping this was going to be better. And then, it picks up and then it gets a lot better. The story gets I enjoyed the story, but what I really enjoyed about the story and the series to me as a Texan is that I feel like very few and far between do you ever have like mainstream series that reflect the Tejano, the Texan identity, of the Latino Texan identity. So I felt that show did a good job of representing that, and also the Latino Mexican American family.
Yeah,
I felt like it was represented well.
Correct. So there is a cartoonist on Facebook that I follow, Lalo Alcaraz. Yeah, and the people that follow him are very opinionated. And of course, they're very opinionated on the.
He was a writer for what show was it? I remember he worked for
Coco.
For Coco, was he?
Was it Coco?
I don't know if it was Coco. I know he wrote it. I think it was a TV series.
I think it was Coco. I think he helped with Coco.
Maybe. I don't remember exactly.
Okay, so was it or not? Oh my God, this is horrible. I should really do my research more about that. But you brought it up, so you figure it out.
Yeah, I'll have to figure it out. Like I don't remember, but I know Lalo's definitely a big name.
He's a cartoonist.
Yeah. He's definitely a big name in the U.S.
Yeah. So, but his audience is actually pretty big on like forming their opinion and giving their opinion. And so when he shared an article.
Well, the thing is, like, he started as a cartoonist, as a political cartoonist that talked about Latino topics. So that's why his audience is very.
Okay.
It comes from that, like originates there.
I follow him. This is what I know. He's a cartoonist. I follow him, and I know the people that follow him are very opinionated also, the way he is.
Yeah.
So that's as far as I know, Juan.
Yeah.
So when he shared an article about the Selena series and why this writer of this article found her problem with it, I was more interested in what other people had to say, like in the comment section.
Okay.
So I'm going to read you one of what somebody said. And this is somebody on his page who gave their opinion. And he said, I've never been a fan of Selena, and I'm not a fan of Tejano music. I love other genres of Mexican and Mexican-inspired music. Still, I'm interested in checking out the series on the account of Selena's values to Mexican-American culture. And I was like, And that to me is an amplification as to why, like I said, why it was important, I think, for the Black Eyed Peas to include like Selena, or to include the Chicanas from East LA, and why it seems to be very important right now, right here, why we're talking about the Mexican American culture and how, yes, it is segmented.
But yes, I feel like even though it's being referenced in pop culture, I feel like we're not really talking about it. Like, I feel like we're not really having conversations about it, in all honesty. Like, I don't feel like we're having conversations about it.
And another commenter said, Anyone who really knows Minerva Garcia Ortega wouldn't give such a flippant retort. She has put in the hard work to produce, write, and offer critical thought. Minerva is from Texas, and since arriving to LA, she has been on the front lines fighting for us, not only on stage and theaters, but on the screen and on the street protesting. She has done so much to fight the injustice and given direct support to the families whose families members have been killed by police. She has led the way for seeking justice for actors. And I was like,
is that the actress that plays Selena, or who?
I think it's one of the writers.
Oh, okay.
But I was like, holy shit, like they're like his readers are like doing their homework. Like, and they're like, this matters so much more than, this is why the Selena, the series on Netflix, is important to us. I don't think, like, yes, it gave jobs to so many those of like Latino descent, and you know, a lot of the writers and a lot of the people who were put hands on it, like, were Hispanic, were Latinos. But I guess what they're saying is like, it goes so much farther than just the series of Selena. Yes, my original question was, right, why is the Selena series on Netflix like important, even though the movie was highly successful, her albums were highly successful, and it's more than just us putting us like old footage out there of her from her past debuts of her music and her music videos. Because there's a conversation that is being had, and I think the conversation is being pulled to the forefront based on the things that we're watching and based on the music that we're listening to. And I think for the next while, right, I think it's gonna, I don't know, like, I don't know what to make of it yet.
Well, here's what I make of it. Like, I feel like it is important, but I think it's not important because there's a Latino wave or anything like that. Because I think the Latino wave happened in 1995, 1996 after she passed away. And then you saw the Ricky Martins, and then you saw the J-Los, and then you saw the Christina Aguileras, and all of those people that came out. Even Shakira started back then in English and crossing over. And I think that was the Latin wave. So this is not like I don't know that anybody's referencing as that, but I think like I feel like it is bigger. I mean, I would agree that it is bigger than that. Like, it's bigger than just a series on Netflix. I think it's bigger than the people that were able to get employment from that, or the viewership, even of how much as viewership is achieved. Like, it's bigger than whether it's trending number one or not. You know, it's a story, I think, that represents, like I said, to me, the Mexican American identity. And those who I feel like in Texas identify so much with.
Yeah, like I think that's the commonality. That's the commonality with all the Tejanos. Like, even though we arrived, even though some had just arrived like after her or way before her, we have generations here, or they have generations here. I feel like that's the commonality. There's always a common thread. And I feel like there was a little bit of hate. And sometimes we forget that. I feel like there was a little bit of hate towards the show. Like, a lot of people were criticizing it and criticizing like different things about it. And I wondered in my mind, like, are the people who were criticizing the show who don't like it? Do they happen to be outside of Texas? Do they happen not to be Latino Texans? Well, here, listen to this comment. Listen to this comment really quick. They said, this is again back to Lalo's comments. Somebody said, and I was like, oh, okay. Oh, I understand. Like, I can see where this is coming from, what they mean by this. And this person said, I guess he was arguing, he said something else, but in the middle of his argument, he said, we need to support Latino-led projects. On the flip side, though, we do have to address the blatant whitewashing that we see in Chicano Latino stories. It's pervasive and such an issue when it comes to representation. I feel like we can both, to be honest, we do both without giving out passes. Like, we can't just keep whitewashing our stories. The Chicano, I mean, I think it can story. Yeah. I don't think like I said, like he said, like, or she said, like, it doesn't have to be both. Because I remember when the series. But do you agree we whitewash our stories? Oh yeah. Like, but I feel like when the show One Day at a Time was out and then it got canceled and then it brought back. I felt like there was an expectation of Latinos in general as a whole to stand behind that show because it was a Latino show.
But then all of a sudden, when there's this show that's about Mexican Americans or Texans that happen to be Mexican Americans and Latinos, there was more kind of widespread criticism of the show, or like how not believable it was. And I think, or like how like it wasn't as, I guess the storyline wasn't as dramatic or controversial as maybe something else that Netflix would have produced.
Do you think it's just positivity that we're trying to, like, the Selena brings so much light and positivity because it was so tragic, and she was so, like, I think we've to the point where we're idolized her and just created her like into a santa.
Well, I think that may be part of it, but I think the other part of it is that, for me, is that I think as
like a way of saying, like, that's not like all Mexican Americans aren't what everybody else says. Like, look at Selena, like she's a great representation of who we can be, many of us are.
Like, I don't know if I agree with that. Like,
okay.
I think, like, for me, it's like it's bigger than Selena, because I think that I think her family is very similar to like a lot of Mexican families, and I think some of the qualities that we as Mexican families share is that we're very humble, you know, we're very like well mannered, like you could say, you know, we're not loud, and for the most part, you know, we try to, like, you know, we're always taught, like, you know, like you talked before on the show about like the word mande, and that, like, you know, our customs can be seen as very specific, like almost you could describe them as docile or submissive. And so I think that you can look at it and maybe say, oh, you know, well, that's really not that interesting, or that really is not that, you know, that really is not that relevant, or that doesn't apply to me. But I think, as we've kind of talked about before, like when we're talking about Mexican Americans or Mexicans and Mexican Americans being the majority of the Latinos in this country, like, it's about time that we're represented. And, you know, if those happen to be some of the qualities that we possess that we're like, you know, some of our family stories are.
But the thing is, if we're getting segmented, how do we get represented?
I think it's like, well, I don't know. Like,
how do we take one person to represent it? And I think that's why the Selena thing comes on so strong, is because it's just a full index of a sheer, like, we don't disagree with it. Like, she's a full representation of who we are.
Yeah, and I think that's
and I think, like, that's why
I think that's what's sometimes it's what people are used to seeing from Mexican Americans, is the nice, humble, sweet, like, portrayal, which is kind of what Selena the show is. But then you also have that other side that I think people like Snow the Product and, you know, other artists that
correct, who's Mexican American,
that are very like in your face. And
she's not coming up, she's up there already, homies.
Yeah,
like she's out, like, no, like,
but they're like in your face, and they're unapologetic, and they're
about it. Correct.
They're very much like, yeah, we're Mexican and we're Mexican American, and we, you know, like they're not gonna be shy, and they're not gonna mince words. They're gonna like use like colorful language to say what they want to say.
Oh my God, should I bring up some of the Product's lyrics? Because I'm like, there's times where I'll like, if I'm feeling it, like, and I feel it often, I'll turn it up and I'll start.
So to me, it's like, you don't have to be one or the other. Like, both of them are a representation. So I think sometimes maybe the thing is that people have this idea of who Mexican and Mexican
I think they have an idea
are.
Of who they prefer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, like, when you talk about Snow the Product, you're talking about, like, there's one song where she says, there's the lyric where she says, mi mamá told me que no me raje, que yo soy de la calle. Like, and
I think that's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like you don't want, like, you want a very specific, you want us to be a specific, like, kind of Mexican. And the thing is, just like in every other culture, you're gonna have different aspects, and yes, the same way that like Anglos, like white people, and the same way that Black Americans, even though they're not the way they're compartmentalized, it's the same thing with Mexicans. It's the same thing with Puerto Ricans. It's the same thing with Cubans. And the thing is that we get jumbled into Latinos, and then we get jumbled again into just Mexican Americans, and then we get jumbled again. You know what I'm saying? And so I think the reason that I like the fact that the series is out, even though I haven't watched it yet, and the fact that the Shakira, the Black Eyed Peas and Shakira, Girl Like Me, is out. it's the lyrics. It's the reason why it's important, why it's obvious. Like it could have easily been like La Mexicanas Americana, like the Mexicans, like, but it was very specific. Like Selena, East Italy, like LA Chicanas, and he like make sure he was like the Latinas. And it's Selena. When they talk about Selena, I think to myself immediately, Tejanas, like he's talking about me. He's talking about girls like me.
But I think the thing is that that as Mexicans we run the gamut. But the unfortunate thing is that there are so few people that represent the true diversity of what it is, what the Mexican American
they have a very specific
Mexican identity is, because there's one Yalitza Aparicio, and that's it. There's no other Yalitza Aparicio out there.
There's one Selena.
There's one Selena
for representation of
one Snow the Product. You know, there's one. And I think.
And we had this conversation before. How we're so underrepresented, even though like on the huge aspect, like how we're underrepresented as Mexicans and Mexican Americans within the Latino community. There's still, I've said this before, the high average of the executives, the high average of people who are in management tend to be not of Mexican descent.
But I'll share like something that I was pretty disappointed in, which is why I said earlier, I feel like, even though that we're being referenced or things are starting to, like, little things are here and there you're starting to see, but I feel like we're not really having the conversation, and we're in a lot of ways we're not seen. So this weekend the New York Times did their like year in photos, and so they highlighted all like the major things that happened in 2020, and they had obviously the coronavirus, they had the presidential election, they had the Black Lives Matter movement, and they didn't have the Vanessa Guillen story. And to me that was such a slap in the face, because I'm like, that was such a big story, not only for Latinos, not only for Texans, but it was a huge story nationally. Yeah. So the fact that it wasn't even
it crossed over from just being Hispanic, Mexican American, Tejana. It crossed over into the general like sexual harassment on women within the military space.
So the fact that it didn't even get mentioned, like they didn't even acknowledge it, I was like, that's just like that's such a sign of the times that we're not visible. We
feel passed over.
Yeah, we're still not visible. We're still not.
It's like we're hand selected one by one, and it's like, why would you hand select? Like you understand, like you can't just choose and pick what's important to us. We pick.
Yeah, and like I still have it on my I'm like on my list. I'm like, I'm gonna send the editor of the New York Times for that section.
You should
an email and be like, I can't believe that you didn't include Vanessa Guillen, because that was such an important.
You should, story. And you should tell him this is why.
And especially not only because she was from our community here in Houston, but I feel like in general, like there weren't really any Latino stories in there, like Mexican or not, or Mexican American or not. So like even if there were, they're very far and few between. Like not that I'm trying to compare apples to oranges, but obviously, like, no, you can talk to pretty much any American and ask them about Vanessa Guillen, and they can tell you at least who she was or what happened, or that she was involved in some scandal.
Correct. Not that she was involved in the scandal, but that it, like, Fort Hood, like, Fort Hood, like, I think a couple of people who were like in high power have been like it pushed things, and a lot of it's because of her family, like her sister, her mom, who just were diligent and insistent, and like had to have answers, because how dare the U.S. military take their daughter and not give her back? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so it's so like, I think that's like, that's us, you know what I'm saying? Like when when people tell us like, oh, you gotta, you have to como que separarte, like not separate. You know how when people say, oh, well, like I really don't talk to my family, or my family like I don't know, like I hear it in other places where like, yeah, I separate myself from my family. Like it's, like for us, it's not so easy, because we're so tied to our family. And so when it was, to me, it just made sense that it was her sister and her mom and her friends who were like, where the fuck is Vanessa?
And I think that,
You know what I'm saying?
and that's the reason I say, like, even though I feel like, you know, yeah, maybe we're mentioned, maybe Yalitza's like brought to the Oscars, maybe like Selena has a series now, like maybe like Shakira says something about Selena, or the Black Eyed Peas.
No, the Black Eyed Peas do.
But
Shakira
like,
just happened to be part of them.
Is that enough? Like, I don't think that's enough. Like, I think that, like, that's why I admire, like, people like Snow the Product, who are like so unabashedly, like, you know, and I think we need more of that. Like, more people that to be
we
like,
need
you know
more
what?
Snow the Products in our lives.
We need more people that are vocal, and I feel like as Mexicanos, to not be what am I trying to say?
I know.
Like, as Mexicanos,
we have some emotion to it that we don't know how to put into words.
To not hold back, and to not to not say, oh, you know what, like, you know, it's okay, or that's okay, or this is okay, to make excuses. It's like, no, this is like, we're the majority.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, like, the population as a whole wants to be very selective as to what they want.
And I mean, like it or not, whether we're mild-mannered or not,
yeah,
like, we do have a voice, and we do have power in this country. So I think that it's about time that we just, like, you know, whether you know,
hello,
and however that shows up.
Hello, Nevada and Arizona.
Yeah,
hello, Nevada and Arizona. Didn't they go blue? Didn't they go blue? And who do you think is voting there? They have voters. I'm just saying, like, yes, the voices, the Latino voices matter. And most certainly, definitely, the Mexican American voice is out there, and it matters. And I think it's just a telling times that it's being put in kind of like in your way as to, like, hey, it's coming.
Now, this reminds me of another, like, if I can segue a little bit.
Okay.
So this reminds me of a conversation that I saw online.
Well, before you segue,
okay, can
it be, because I can't move on from the whole Selena series without mentioning our friend Joy Guerra, that did amazing write-ups of the Selena series and the songs. He selected songs, but I wanted to quote some of the things that he said.
Oh, and I loved his memes. So Joy, your memes are awesome.
Your memes were look, man, friend.
You had me cracking up.
You're passive aggressive. Sometimes aggressive, and I like the aggressiveness of it.
You know what? And I have to say, like, before, like, the fact that Suzette Quintanilla was a producer on that show, I was like, you know what? That in and of itself, to me, like, I'm like, I'll watch the series and I'll support it.
Yeah. Just a part really quick that says, ultimately, Selena's story of hope, hits, and heartbreak that continue to make her a Texas legacy, unlike that of anyone else. He quoted somebody, and some Samoda. I don't know if that's her name. Is that her name?
Who?
The actress Samoda?
I don't know.
Oh my god, I need to look this up. I haven't watched the series.
Is it on the article?
No, the article stuff. No.
Oh, okay.
But I like the quote that Samoda said. She says, I think that is just wonderful to see so many Mexican Americans up there, so many brown people, to hear rancheras references to Juan Gabriel and Rocío Dúrcal. I'm so grateful. Huh?
Rocío Dúrcal.
Yeah, what did I say? Dúrcal. Did I pronounce it differently?
Yeah, you pronounced it, I think, the C first.
I'm so grateful and honored to be a part of this, Samoda said. And I was like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I mean, it really is a good series. Like, I not only because I, like, obviously I'm a Selena fan, but, like, but no, I mean, I think it's a really good series. It is,
and he continues. And so, and I don't know, on one of his actual Facebook posts, I know one of his actual Facebook posts back in November, he said, I seen the entire first Selena series on Netflix, and I really enjoyed it. I'm consciously curious for the first episode, but by the second, I was all in, and touches so many things and includes so many details that the movie didn't and couldn't. Tejano fans will recognize a lot of the moments and faces. Tejano fans, again, references Tejanos. Yeah. And will introduce Tejano music and culture to the mainstream audiences in the way that hasn't been done before. And that's huge. Yes, because for those who don't know, Tejano music was created by Mexican Americans who immigrated here from Mexico and who have toques of German, like, influences, and it's a whole other, like, genre of music that
no, and it's a big part of the culture. But yeah, I mean, I agree completely with what he said. and the like all the backstory that you get, like the even like as far as like how their songs were created and how hard it was, like because they didn't always have the the glamorous at the end that we all saw when Selena passed, like where she was like Amor Prohibido Selena. That wasn't always the Selena that was out there. Was like there was a lot of struggles before that.
Samoda is the creator of Selena, the series on Netflix. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was like out there. I was like, is that the actress's last name or is that somebody else?
But he's the creator of the show.
Yeah, he's the creator of the show.
Well, kudos to you.
You back up on your bullshit, don't belong to me. You acting all sleazy, I don't like what I see. I got all the game, don't get fucked in your brain.
Hey, this is Angelicas Podcast.
And this is Juan Alanis.
Thank you so much for joining us on season 2 of Juana Words Podcast. You can find us on
Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, on Stitcher, Spotify, and other platforms. Also on our website at juanawords.com. And we hope you enjoyed the episode that you're listening to right now.
And if you enjoyed it, you can leave us a review and a thumbs up. If especially on the Apple platform, the higher ratings and the reviews we get, the more listeners we actually can be found by.
Yeah.
So
it really does help us. So we really would appreciate it, a rating or a review on Apple Podcast. And until next time, thank
see
you.
you then. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I can do you worse than you ever did me first. I can do you worse than your ex and your first. Don't try to play me, cause I'm from the street.
Just to segue a little bit. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of a conversation.
Selena?
The whole conversation that we're having now about identity that I saw on Facebook. A reporter from Houston, sometimes she'll go online and she'll ask questions and she'll ask for public opinion on Facebook, and that usually leads to discussion. And the discussion that she was asking about was about the word Latinx. She was asking people, how do you feel about it? Do you identify as that? Do you understand it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Why or why not? And then she got a lot of responses.
Okay. And she asked?
Yeah.
On Facebook?
On Facebook.
So she's a journalist who asked, how do you feel about the word Latinx?
Yeah, for a story that she's working on, and she said, she said, you may be quoted in my story, and then she was going back and forth with certain people based on their comments that they were giving.
Okay.
And then I'm sure, like, after, if she had more interest, she might have connected with them over the phone or something else.
Okay.
But I thought it was interesting that a lot of the responses that were coming in, or that were being published, and that that's thrown by the algorithm, so you don't know, it's based on who she's following.
I don't know. You did this right here. You did a movement, and I was like, I don't know what that is.
It's like, that's my subjective movement.
This is subjectively by the algorithm. This is what I read.
I don't know, but without getting into too much of the algorithm and how that sways it one way or the other.
Yeah.
A lot of the opinions of people that were commenting that were like, I hate that word. I don't understand it. Like, it's dumb. Like, I don't like it. I don't identify as that, and I don't identify it. And like, it was just a lot of kind of like people that were against the word Latinx.
Why?
Because I think
it's not like a bad word.
And I think there were a few people who were going in there and talking about it is a term used to be more inclusive and to include
we
more
can
people.
Be more inclusive. It's it's okay.
And then some people were going in there and saying, you know what, I don't identify as Latinx or Latino or Hispanic. Like, I identify as my country of origin. So they were saying like
Colombian
American or Mexican American or
Salvadorian American or Mexican American.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so they were getting very specific.
Yeah, and I think that that kind of made me think about what you were saying earlier, because I feel like
I used to be like that. I used to very much be like, I am not, you know what, I'm Mexican American. But that was because it was true to the times of like what we were living 4 years ago.
But I feel like there's a little bit of, they were talking about a little bit, I feel like there's a little bit of that division that you referenced earlier, with even within the Latino culture where, obviously we're not all the same. And obviously we don't all have the same political views, and we don't care about the same issues. Or
no, we care about the same issues, but we don't. No, we care about the same issues. We just care about them differently.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we may not be as passionate about the same issues. And so, like, for me, like, I I went in and I shared my view, and my view was that,
What did you say?
I said I use the three words interchangeably. Honestly, I said I don't necessarily identify as Latinx all the time, but I have used the word to identify myself as Latinx before. And I said, honestly, I use the three words interchangeably: Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx. To me, it just depends on who I'm talking to and what the context of the conversation is.
Okay.
How I'll use them. I was like, but I'm not opposed to them. Like, I understand that the root of the purpose of Latinx is to be more inclusive, and that doesn't bother me.
Okay.
But it's not a word that I always identify as I'm Latinx. Like, it's not something that I do, but I have used it before. But so that was like my 2 cents. But what I shared also was that more and more, what I feel like I identify with is Mexican American, as opposed to before.
Okay.
I felt like I was more
always, or has that been recently?
More recent, I think. And I think it goes to like what we were talking about before, that as Mexican Americans, we aren't really that visible. And so, like, I think that...
Do you feel like you're making a difference by saying you're Mexican American?
I don't know if I'm making a difference, but at least I'm saying it.
To yourself?
No, I mean, I don't know if I'm making a difference in the bigger picture of it.
But I mean, do you think you're making a difference to yourself to keep identifying as Mexican? Like, you've always known you're Mexican American, but outwardly.
So, I don't know, like... Before, for me, like, I was much more accepting of the word Latino as a word that encompassed me and that, like, identified me and identified all the other Latinos in the United States.
Okay.
I accepted that, and that was a terminology that I was like, yes, we're all Latinos and we all fall under this umbrella. Now, I feel a little bit less of that. I feel more like...
Do you feel it's because you've been excluded?
Not that I've been excluded myself. I feel that because
Well, that's difficult to say it like that, because I feel we've all been excluded to a sense.
Well,
I feel like okay.
Well, let me say
I'm sorry.
The reason that I'm saying that I don't feel that way is that I don't feel that like the Latino really identifies me anymore, is because I don't feel that everybody who identifies as Latino shares my same interest or cares about the same things that I care about.
But we've always known that. Why now?
Maybe it was me being gullible, or being like, believing that as Latinos we all kind of like
had the same interest.
At the core, had the same values and same interests, and we
do have the same values, but our interests are different.
We're standing for the same thing, and I think what I feel is that maybe that's not the case
for
across the board.
Correct.
And I feel like because Mexican Americans, we're not as represented and we're not as vocal or representative. We're not as represented and we're not as vocal
as we would like to be, because we're less vocal than others.
Because we're not as vocal, then a lot of times, it adds to the fact that we're not visible.
Okay.
So to me, it's more a way of saying, like, no, I am Mexican American, and that's what I want to claim. Like, that's what I want to... I don't want to just be Latino. I'm okay if you want to call me Latino, Latinx, Hispanic, whatever you want to call me. But when you ask me, I'm going to identify as Mexican American, because that's where I want to place my voice. So to me, like, that's... I like, it just made me think about that, because I'm like, yeah, like... If we think about it, is it because she was going back and forth to people, and she was asking them, like, well, if you don't like the word Latinos or Latinx or Hispanic as an all-encompassing word, do you think there's value in being grouped together? And my response was, yeah, like, there's definitely value in being grouped together for economic purposes, for whatever, government funding and this and that. Yeah,
but does that really make sense to be all-encompassing? Because doesn't that just means, like, then we'll be served? And then within ourselves, what we're served, we have to then like break like what it is that, and if whatever we get served very little, then you get what the least of the less. And so it doesn't make sense for all of us to be encompassed like that sometimes.
Well, like, I guess
always, you know what I'm saying?
What I was saying is, like, it does benefit us to be grouped together, and that's in a larger holistic sense. Like, yeah, like, sure, like, whatever, we're Latinos, there's 50,
but does it really
50 million of us and this and that. But when it comes down to it, if our issues and our political priorities are not the same, then how does that really positively impact you and me, as opposed to if we're the majority but we're not visible, and the people who are visible don't necessarily have our interest at heart or in mind.
I think, for me personally, si me preguntaras a mí, if you would ask me, does it make sense for the holistic approach, like you said, to be grouped together? I think not now. It's not the time to group us yet. I think it will be probably true to go ahead and do that maybe later, right? I think our values do sometimes align with a lot of those who aren't Mexican American, who are within the Latino culture and sector. Our values do, but we have different ways of approach. And I think maybe not right now. I think there's a lot of conversation that needs to take place. I think to full on understand us, I think we need to have the conversation not just just among the Latinos, but the rest of the population, so you can hear what's being said, so you can have an overall view as to maybe we're not seeing something, we're not hearing something because we're insisting that this is the way it is. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know yet.
And I guess I'm
proud to be Latina. But let me just say this. I am proud to be Latina. I am proud to stand next to my Colombianas, my Venezolanas, my Puerto Ricans, my Dominicans, my Cuban Latinas. I certainly am. I definitely am. But I think there's conversations that just need to be had.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I'm not arguing for the separation or for there not to be unity within Latinos. I do support that. I do agree with that there should be unity within us, because I think otherwise we're being divided, and it's like when
the thing is that the outside world is not dividing us. We are.
It's like when minorities of color are encouraged to battle it out within each other.
It feels like this is us.
I feel this is the same thing that we're encouraged to be divisive within our own Latino
and
culture.
we're listening.
And
doesn't it feel like we're listening?
I don't know, but
the few and far between those.
I don't know if we're listening, but to me,
okay.
To me, what I think, what I'm trying to say is that I'm still kind of thinking through this, but for me, what I think is until a majority of Mexican Americans, and Mexicans can, feel like they have a voice and be represented, and not just people who look and sound like me, or who look and sound like other Mexicans who are maybe more what do they call it? We were having this conversation offline, but they're more in a way, quote unquote, whitewashed enough to be accepted.
Correct.
Until the people who don't look like that and who are they're still part of
it's
our
not
culture,
even about looking like that, or it's about sounding like it. Until
we're more fully embraced. I don't feel I can tout the word Latino as proudly as I did before, because as Mexicans and Mexican Americans, we're not included in that definition. When people
I'm proud to be Latino.
Raise the Latino flag, I'm still proud to be Latino. But I'm saying, if when we raise the flag and we're so proud of it,
we should be all inclusive.
Mexicans are this part of it in our mind, then that makes me feel a little diminished. Because I want a bigger chunk of that.
We need fair and equal.
Yeah, I want a bigger chunk
portion,
of that.
Yeah.
And I want it to be spread across, not just Latinos who are light skinned, not just Latinos who speak English, not Latinos who are citizens, or Mexicans who are citizens, but across the board to all Mexicans, because we're very diverse and we're from all walks of life, and we look and I'm gonna have
to ask you to stop doing that.
Oh.
You keep pulling on my ears when you get so passionate and you start.
But no, I feel until as Mexicans across the board we start to be more visible, then I don't know. I feel like there's not a lot of equity there yet.
I agree. There isn't a lot of equity that's being put across the board. I feel like it's being given as if there was equal parts to everybody. But even then, if you're giving out equal parts, you're still giving less of equal parts to the majority of those.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why?
And that,
why? ¿Por qué?
I guess in my roundabout way, like that's all. Like that's the
maybe it's just us. Maybe it's Mexican Americans not being loud enough. Is it time for us to be loud?
Yeah. At the core of what I'm saying is that, like, I want more equity. Like in that pie of Latino, that Latino pie. I want an equitable slice for the Mexican community.
Not for us, the Mexican community, the Mexican American community, or the Mexican community. Yeah. And you're right. I very much agree. I very much agree. But how do we do that? How do we get equity?
I feel like it's like having conversations and then encouraging other people to be okay with feeling that way. And to not feel
is it okay for us to make others feel uncomfortable?
I think so. Like, I mean, why?
But then,
like you said, I feel like it boils down to what you said. Like, we're not trying to be like, we're not trying to be the Proud Boys and be going out here and like attack and fight for, like, we're trying to say there are conversations that need to be had. And we need to have those conversations. Yeah. We know that you are like our Latino brethren. We all share the same culture, but we need to have a conversation about Mexicans and our place in the Latino identity.
Yeah, I remember once I tried to have a conversation like that, and then not that it didn't go over too well, but it was met with resistance a little bit, and I was like, "No, man, then you don't get it." Yeah, and you don't get. And I had the conversation in front of you. I was like, no, it's a different palette. You're talking different flavors to me. Like we're talking on the same spice rack, but we're talking different flavors, and you're not listening.
And sometimes I think it boils down. It can, maybe not always, but it can have a little bit of that position of power, of the position of privilege, where if you know that you're benefiting. Or you have you're more visible, even though you're not in numbers. You're smaller numbers. Then there's definitely a sense of like, well, what am I going to lose? Yeah. If if I agree to have this conversation, and I don't think it's about that. I don't think it's about losing anything.
Oh my goodness!
I think it's about being fair.
Not just being fair. Not like. We speak fairness and we speak equity, but it's just like, look, there comes a time where you notice things and it's just time for it. It's time that the representation is being met across the board, whether in music, in politics, in series of Netflix, in whatever. Like I know we started off with the whole like the Black Eyed Peas and the Netflix series, but it has to be across the board. And it's time. Whether that's, if we have to start with conversations, then we need to start with conversations. Yeah.
And I think the entertainment and that's the easy stuff, right? I mean, that's the easy stuff that
we think it is. We don't know. We're not in entertainment or music. We don't know.
Not that it's easy to put together. I don't want to make it sound like that's easy to have a Netflix show and not this and that. Yeah. But that's the stuff that's going to get attention anyway. Because if Netflix is behind it, of course people are going to talk about it. They're going to report about it and this and that. But when we're talking about local communities, when we're talking about local representation and Mexicans who feel like they don't have a voice, who are scared, or who, then that is much more harder to see and harder to touch. Yeah. And so I think that's where it also really matters. And I think if we don't see it there, then all the entertainment in the world is only going to make us feel good. Yeah. But there's not going to be any consequence.
Yeah.
But
I think we can keep talking about this. I think we can start dissecting it even more, but I don't think
I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I felt like that was it reminded me of the conversation that we were having, and it made me just realize to myself that I feel like
you having epiphanies here on your own?
No, okay. I'm saying that conversation online made me realize to myself, vocalize to myself a little bit more you know what, I do lean a little bit more towards Mexican Americans now than I did before because of X, Y, and Z. Just because of the reasons that we talked about. Yeah. Where before I was Latinos, we're Latinos, and I still feel I'm still proud. Like I said, I'm still proud to be Latino. I still feel like there's a lot there, and I feel like they're just, like you said it best, they're just conversations, and we need to have them.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm gonna get off my horse.
Can you get off your stool, sir?
I'm gonna get off with my soapbox and
get off. I need you off of it for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm happy. We were passionate about the topic, and we've been having these topics constantly for the last year or two. And I thought I would bring a little bit of light in retrospect to like the music and, you know, the things that we watch on TV and how this conversation need to be had and how we see it now across music and across like a series on Netflix.
No, this is exciting. This was an exciting episode for me. Like I'm like,
was it? Look at you. I know. I was like, he is not gonna get off that soapbox.
I'm like, oh wow, like we're like
yeah, this is probably gonna be a 2-part, or maybe. This is gonna be like a whole 2 hours.
I know, like, but we might split it up or something. No,
we need to do something because we can look. We've had this conversation for 2 years. We can be on here for 3, 4, 5 hours. But I think we want to introduce this is the platform where we love to have conversations. We want to know what you think. We want to know what you say, what you have to say. What do you agree? Do you disagree? Look, it's an open conversation. There are no right answers. There are no wrong answers. There's just disagreements and there's conversations. So please let us know what you think. Yeah.
And obviously, like we're at the advantage here because we have the microphones and we're sharing our opinions, and we have this whole like hour, 2 hour to talk about how we feel, how we like. But that's not necessarily the point. I mean, the point for us is that, you know, we do care to hear your point of view. We do care to hear like where you're coming from, or why you think the way you think. And you know, I think we learned our
lesson.
Open
for dialogue.
We learned our lesson in 2016, you know, that we, you know, politicizing or jumping on anything where it's just like where you can't even have a conversation where you're just
you're not helping.
Heads.
Yeah,
that doesn't do anything for anybody.
Yeah.
So
you're not helping the situation by just yelling.
Yeah, I mean, we'd rather have the conversations, and like we said, like these are conversations that are necessary. So like we do want to hear from you, whether you agree with us or you think, you know what, you guys are batshit crazy, and everything.
But don't call us that. Like let it like be.
Everything that you said,
be useful with words. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Let us know. Send us a message and tell us why you feel that way, because, you know, like I said, we're willing to hear it, and we're willing to listen, and you know, if it's something that maybe challenges the way that we think or what we're believing at the moment, because like I said, we're still processing kind of what we're feeling and thinking.
So, I mean, yeah, we're still processing, but I feel like you know when your video is processing and it's like at full and it's gonna upload, like I'm at 98%. Yeah. Like I know where I stand with things.
Yeah, and I know where I stand too, but I'm just saying, like I do feel like I'm kind of. I
still have room to hear.
Yeah, I'm still open.
I still have lots of room to hear. That's for sure. Like I still have a lot of room to edit.
But having said that, guys, I hope that you will take the time to give us your feedback and share with us and like opinionate, and don't feel like you can't, because we really, I mean, I guess why we're harping on about this is just because we hope that it doesn't feel like you can't do that, or that if you don't agree with what we're saying, that you just
click off.
Yeah.
And that you're like, nope, that's enough of them. Like we want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear what you have to say. Maybe we gave an interpretation that you completely disagree with. Where did you disagree? Where did you think that we went wrong? Let us know. Like I said, I am at least very completely comfortable with edits of myself, edits with the way I think and how yeah.
And with that, we will invite you to go out and find us. You can find us on different platforms. So this podcast that you're listening to, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or another listening platform, we actually do this in video too. So if you want to watch us and kind of what our expressions are, and when my hands were all over the place, and you want to see what was it? What did I say that was?
You're subjective. You're subjective.
My thing for subjective, my hand motions. Then go watch us. We're on YouTube, and you can just search us as Juan of Words.
On Facebook.
Or on Facebook.
We're on Facebook as Juan of Words Podcast. Go over there if you don't want to go to YouTube, and you can care less to like watch YouTube videos. But hey, I know you got a Facebook account. I know you do. Go watch us. And if you want to leave us your opinion, leave it there. And if you want to leave us a rating, go do it on Apple, because the more ratings and the more stars you give us, the more people find us.
Yep. And the easiest way to always find us is just go to juanofwords.com, and you'll find all our connections, all our links there, as well as our generous sponsors who are bringing this show and making this show possible. So on this episode, that happens to be Comcast and the Houston Health Department. So we say thanks to them, and thank you to you for listening, and we will see you on the next one.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.